Okay, now everyone can see. You all recognize that graphic drawing up there in the upper right-hand corner. Everyone knows what that one is. And there's more of them down in the lower left corner. And then there's the Southeast USA. There's Florida sticking down there. And what's that thing hovering out over the hurricane? So those are some images to show that sometimes during hurricane season there's hurricanes, and during epidemic season there's epidemic, and there's mass difficulty sometimes. So this is not just speaking about why, we'll speak about why bad things happen in large scale. Now, Paramarupa, I sent him before I left. He probably didn't even check it yet. Just checking now. There's a document that gives, not my creation, it's something from the a magazine indicating the numbers of hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands and millions and millions and millions of hundreds of thousands of disasters that happen from time to time. You know, the history of the world. There's disasters. Famine seems to be one of the biggest ones, as far as numbers of people affected, not affected, killed. What to speak of people affected. So this presentation is designed, it's specific to COVID, as you see from the images, but when there's difficult times, how do we maintain gratitude? But we'll speak a little bit about why people suffer in such large scale. Of course, there's small scale, but there's also large scale. And why the large scale, or small scale for that matter? There are different ways of saying it. One of the ways, just kind of blunt, is karma. What goes around comes around. Or I recall, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. But the daughter of the Christian evangelist, whose name I'm not remembering right now, gave a list of like 15 things. This is after 9/11. You know, people do this and people do that and people do the other thing and people do the other thing and people do the other thing and people do the other thing. That you're just like, as far as laws of God are concerned, they're criminal. And they do this thing and they do that, and the scale of it is very large, and they expect there isn't going to be a pushback from nature. Well, that's not wise. Now, she didn't use the word karma, but we do bad things, and the principle is there's large scale harm to Earth, there's large scale harm to other living entities on Earth, there's large scale inhumanity to man in the human society. And when those things happen, it doesn't go into the ether. It's just that there's culpability for harm that goes to others. And so from time to time, there's not individual or small scale. There certainly is individual and small scale, but larger scale suffering. I've been listening to some lectures that Prabhupada gave in first canto Bhagavatam, where he's describing, it's a section where is the advent of the age of Kali. And he's using this metaphor of Dharma. One sense of Dharma is laws given by God. And a religious person is one who follows the laws given by God. And one who violates the laws given by God is adharmic. But just like there's laws of the state, and persons that break the laws of the state, they'll be held responsible for breaking the law. There's a place for them. It's called the jail. And this is in one sense, in a grander sense of things, the whole of the material creation is, Durga's in charge of it. She's the prison warden in charge of the prison. And persons in this place are here because there's criminal activity, at least in terms of the laws of God are concerned. And there's inconvenience that comes because of that, or suffering that comes because of that, small scale, large scale, and in between. So that sounds kind of harsh. Like, comes a bigger question. Why creation? Because God is all good and God is all powerful, so he could make things where people don't do bad. And then everything's good because he's all good. So why doesn't he just make places everything's good and everybody's happy? There is such a place called Vaikuntha. And then there are persons that say no, just like the persons that don't care for the law. They're lawless or law breakers. And then there's a place for those people. They're not killed necessarily. They're put in prison. Place for lawbreakers. So that's kind of place. And there is an option to become law-abiding, dharmic. Follow the codes given by God. That's what Dharma is, codes given by God. And people who abide by the laws, Dharma rakshata rakshataha. Those who abide by Dharma are protected by Dharma. But it doesn't stop there, because even when there's Dharma, there can be some discrepancy. Unintentional. You make some mistakes, because conditioned souls make mistakes, and we're responsible. Even inadvertent mistakes. Now, those inadvertent mistakes are corrected by processes of atonement, or even higher on the devotional scale is by devotional service. They're nullified. But why are people suffering en masse? Because there's neglect of God and God's law. And people who are law-abiding, that's a whole other topic. Why do bad things happen to good people? That was one of the topics that I was thinking to speak about, but this one is picked instead. So, because somewhere along the way, same principle, just applied differently. Somewhere along the way, intentional or unintentional or combination, some mistakes are made, some violations, and then there's responsibility for that. So somewhere back there, good people did something bad, and something comes. They may not remember what that something was. Or there's a tendency when one becomes pious, one gets fruits of piety. And when one gets fruits of piety, but the heart's not pure, then one becomes proud. Let me do a little math formula. You look like a math student. You're just sitting there, I know, but okay, here we go. Fruits of piety plus a heart that's not pure equals pride. Do it again. Piety, you know what piety means, right? Piety means good things. And there's fruits that come from good things. It's good karma. Fruits of piety plus a heart that's not yet pure equals pride. So when there's pride, when if someone's heart is not yet pure, but they've done some good things, but their heart's not pure, they become proud. And when they become proud, they can do very hurtful things to others, and no problem. Because you're proud. Because we have a number of children here. We'll tell a little story. He doesn't want to hear stories. Narada Muni. You know who is Narada Muni, right? No, Narada Muni, not Mr. Modi. Narendra Modi. So here's Narada Muni has a veena, as a musical instrument, a veena, stringed instrument, and he travels here and there because of his musical instrument. It has the power to carry him to different places. So Narada Muni, not Narendra Modi, visited the abode of Kuvera. You know who Kuvera is? Treasure of heaven, Kuvera. When he went to visit the treasure of heaven, Kuvera, there were two sons of Kuvera, and they were proud of their position. We're sons of Kuvera. And Kuvera's very wealthy. Something about treasurers and being wealthy. I don't know what that is, but Kuvera is known to be very wealthy. And they were sons of Kuvera. And Kuvera is a very devoted follower of Lord Shiva, so they were proud of that too. And they had beautiful bodies. They were proud of their beautiful body. Wealth, position, good features of body, good education, but their heart was not pure. They were proud. So when they were misbehaving, Narada decided, these men are shameless. They were wildly intoxicated, etc., etc. So he said, what happens when the heart, it's a nice discussion, but Srimad Bhagavatam, when the heart is not pure, then one becomes proud. And when one becomes proud, you can do any hurtful thing at all. And it's just okay because you're such a big person and you're so proud and you can step on people, hurt people, no problem. That's the fruit of pride. So these two sons of Kuvera, they got a pride problem. What's the best thing for somebody that has a pride problem? To be deprived of that which they are proud of. So I'm going to take away their good birth and their good looks and their good this and their good that and let them be without it for a long while. So it's a nice discussion. You can read about it in the Bhagavad, in Krishna book. You have a Krishna book at home? No? No, we'll get you one. Krishna book. Huh? You have one. You have 4 volumes. Okay. Okay. So why do good things happen, bad things happen to good people? Sometimes good people are proud. Good people get fruits of good activity. And they're prosperous and they're beautiful and well-educated and nice birth and wealthy and everything. And they're proud. And so they do bad things. They do hurtful things. And culture is filled with it. It's one of the things that happens. The cycle of civilizations go up, but they become so proud of their prosperity, they become not so good anymore, and they also become hurtful towards others that don't have that same position. Compassion is lost. The sensibility of the welfare of others is lost. And not just of their family members. You know, nature. Nature is up for grabs to be exploited, and that's a big thing. I mean, you probably know all about it, but in our Western culture, it's a big thing for the younger generation. Big thing for millennials is how people are misusing material nature. So when you misuse material nature, nature lets you know, don't mess. There's a pushback. So that's why. Now, how do you maintain stability? Look at there's 3 fingers up there. The one on our left, the face looked like really bewildered. And then there's a person looking at the person who's bewildered, saying, they look really bewildered. And then the one way over on that side is with hands folded, wondering, I'm wishing well to that person that looks really bewildered. So that's what we're doing. We're wishing well for persons who are going through difficult times, during difficult times. So gratitude is our topic. It's something that it keeps you strong, even through difficult times. So here's a dictionary definition or conventional sense of gratitude. Readiness to show appreciation for and return kindness. Gratitude. In the end, I'm going to give some cookies out. I hope you remember bringing the cookies. Did you remember to bring the cookies? You have. Okay. So if you pay attention. Again, you all thinking about the cookies now. So your parents have most likely taught you to say thank you. And when you want something, you're supposed to not just grab it, but you say please. Please and thank you. But so that's one thing that all cultures of the world teach, please and thank you. That's, nice etiquette. But it's another thing to teach somebody gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude is something you feel inside. So the conventional sense is you want to show appreciation for an act of kindness that's been done to you, and you want to return that kindness. That's gratitude. It's a feeling inside. It's at the heart level, not just a behavior at the speech level. It's something at the heart level. That's gratitude. Now here's something from Scripture. Look at that image, that guy over on the right side. That's a learned person. You see some peacock feather up there. There's a scripture down below. He's got some nice tilak on. And there's some japa beads in the scripture. So Shastra means scripture. Shastra means scripture. And pramana means evidence. Pramana means evidence. So what's the scripture from evidence about gratitude? That's what we're talking about right now. The word in Sanskrit for favor is krita. So when someone feels gratitude, krita gya, J-N-A, that mark there, that means to know, gya, to know that you receive something, and you feel something when you know that you receive something. That's what being grateful. Kritagya. Remember the spelling, because we're going to hear a different word shortly. Very similar but different. Very similar but different. Kritagya is grateful. Here's a teaching from Rupa Goswami that says, a grateful person is one who acknowledges others who have done service. Now, let's just say, all of you younger generation people, you have a mom and a dad. And mom and dad are doing things for you. probably nonstop. They do things for you. And it's one thing to say please and thank you, and it's another thing to feel gratitude. That's what this kritagya, grateful for something received. Not just a nice house and food to eat and, reasonable clothing and stuff like that. When it's winter, you got some boots, but something that you feel, and therefore because it's something that you do for something received. Here's the verse. Kritagya syad abhigyo ya krita sevadi karmanam. Karma, you know the meaning. Karmanam. So others have done some service for you, and when you're grateful, when you acknowledge that service that someone has done for you, see across the top Shastra Praman. That's gratitude, or feeling grateful. Now, notice the spelling, krita gya, and now comes another, krita gya. Means ungrateful. Ungrateful. Krita gya. You recognize that person over on the right side? Who's that? Hanuman. Hanuman. He's crossing the ocean, and then this mountain surfaced from the bottom of the ocean to render some service. So, because they wanted to be some help and maybe give some rest. Hanuman, you can just rest on my side over here. So this is from Ramayana. One should acknowledge a favor and try to pay it back. This is Sanatan Dharma. Look at that. Dharma Sanatana. What does Sanatana mean? What does Sanatana mean? I don't know. Sanatana means eternal. Eternal. What does the soul do eternally? Not, temporarily is, you can say please and thank you, or not. Or you can, that's nice Dharma, but Sanatana Dharma is eternal Dharma. And that's, according to the Ramayana, it's acknowledging a favor. That's Sugriva. You don't recognize him. He's got a crown on. He's a monkey with a crown on. That's Sugriva. You know who Sugriva is, right? Of course you know who Sugriva is, because you listen to Ramayana. So Sugriva made a friendship with Rama. And when the rainy season was over and Sugriva wasn't taking care of fulfilling his promise to Rama, there's by his side is Lakshmana trying to console Ram why Sugriva is not helping you. He made a promise. He received some service from you, and he's ungrateful. Why is he lost it? He's just enjoying his senses like anything, and he forgot his promise. And his heart is ungrateful. That's what Lakshman says. And with Lakshman, he makes a reference to something that Lord Brahma said. A celebrated statement that Lord Brahma said long ago. Lakshman says to Ram that when Brahma saw someone who was ungrateful, he spoke this verse. And there is the Sanskrit across the top, but here's the meaning. This atonement, nishkriti is atonement. There's atonement for persons or that which is beneficial for someone who, the first phrase, Brahmagne, someone who's killed a Brahmin. There's atonement in Scripture for having killed a Brahmin. That's pretty severe. Or for one who drinks liquor, surape, or one who commits theft, chora. Chora? One of Krishna's names is Makhan Chora, right? Because he stole Makhan. Butter. He was a butter thief. Makhan Chora. So Brahma said, someone that steals, that's bad. That's our Dharma. But there's atonement for it. There's atonement for one who violates a sacred vow. Vrate. Bhagna vrate. One who breaks a sacred vow. That's not good. But there's atonement for it. But there's no atonement for someone who's ungrateful. Wow. No atonement for being ungrateful? And how much ungrateful stuff goes on in the world today. People have and they're not grateful. No atonement. Bad things happen to good people in small scale or large scale when there's this no atonement for something that's bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. You can't even atone for it. So what does Lakshman do? He wants him to go let Sugriva know, you're in trouble. Hanuman takes care of the problem. Niskriti means atonement. There's no atonement for ungrateful. It's a dictionary word. Exacerbate. Wow. Exacerbated. Made worse. What's the problem? But why the backup? The reverberation. That's not right. We've got a high reverb. Okay. There's a picture of Krishna projected on a leaf. It's a peepal leaf from a peepal tree. You know what a peepal tree is? Yeah, that's a certain kind of tree, peepal tree. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, Dukhalayam ashashvatam. Dukkha means distress or misery. Krishna says the world that we live in is a place of misery. And ashashvat means it's temporary. This is a temporary place of misery. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. Then there's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Padam, padam, yadvi padam, where it means there's calamity at every step. Calamity at every step. Don't step. Because there's calamity at every step. But life means you take steps. You go forward and do things. And we can expect, because it's the nature of the place in which we live, calamity at every step. And then there's the greatest misfortune. What's the greatest misfortune? Here's the greatest misfortune. From Srimad Bhagavatam, when the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency or illusion called Maya. You've heard that word before, right? Maya. That's the potency for illusion. That's a nice painting. Over on the left side, it's kind of, there's some light and heading into a nice space over there. And over on the right side, it's kind of night. And when you see someone carrying that long scepter like that, that means death. Life on the left side, death over on the right side, and then there's somebody in the middle trying to figure it out. The greatest misfortune is turning away from Krishna. And when we turn away from Krishna, we forget everything. We forget who we are, we forget who he is, and we're bewildered in a fearful condition. That's the greatest misfortune. So what to do? Namanta eva. Namanta eva. Here's someone paying obeisances. Namaha. Just like we do like this. Namaste, right? You know that one? Namaste. So you're offering obeisances. Now this phrase, Namanta eva, is spoken by Lord Brahma. That's Lord Brahma over there on the left. And Lord Brahma is... I see what you're doing. Lord Brahma is offering prayers to Krishna. And here's one of those prayers. Namanta eva is at the end of the first line. Jnane prayasamudapashya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam stane statakshuti gatam tanavan manobhir ye prayaso jito piyase chaistrilokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, jnane prayasa udapasya, They throw away the speculative process of knowledge. And with their body, words, and mind, offer respect to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, Bhavadiya Vartan, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship. Prayaso Ajita Jita. One of Krishna's names is Ajita. Ajita. Ajita means one who is not conquered. And Jita means to conquer. You conquer the unconquerable. How do you do that? Namanta Eva. Offering your respects to the topics of the personality of Godhead. Offering service, body, mind, and words to the topics of the personality of Godhead. This is gratitude. You heard Prabhupada, that little recording of Prabhupada's expressions of gratitude. Now we're hearing, can they hear now? Okay. There is such a thing as spiritual joy. Now, how do you like this photograph? There's a little flower. I don't think the flower is actually growing there in the middle of a sidewalk. Probably somebody stuck it there. But even when something is bleak, like that street scene there, empty street scene, there's a nice flower in the midst of an empty street. Even in the midst of duality, one can experience joy within. When gratitude is there, you experience joy within. Here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Very nice verse, very important verse. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakangsati. The Brahma Bhuta stage means to realize who you are. Brahma Bhuta stage means to realize who you are. This little boy isn't really interested in understanding who he is. He's interested in whatever is in his hand, and that's about it. And if you take it from his hand, he'll scream. So we won't do that. So, elevated consciousness means to know who you are. And when you know who you are, beyond the duality, because see this phrase on the left, in the midst of duality, here we are with a body and a mind and feelings within the mind. And we're beyond that. We're observing those feelings in the mind and the activities of the mind and the activities of the body. This is the feature of duality. And if you recognize who you are, then prasanatma, one feels joy within, joy at the soul level, prasanatma. And when that inner joy is there, that spiritual joy is within, there's no longer hankering and lamenting for something outside. You with me? Now that's an elevated stage. We're not there yet. But Bhagavad Gita wants to take us there. When you're taken there, back to our topic. When there's misfortune that comes towards you, you're walking, you get up in the morning and it's going to have a nice walk in the park today, and you'll go for a walk in the park, and here comes a bear. Or something else unexpected. Who knows what that's something else, but something that looks like misfortune. And then you go through a whole series of reactions according to the misfortune that comes your way unexpectedly. Life has that happen from time to time. In the city I was just prior to coming here, there was one of those things. It was like a big explosion. A teenage boy, really nice. Something unexpected happened, and he got slammed. He lost it. He was crying and crying and crying and really disturbed. And his mom came to me, my son's really disturbed. What do I do? it's one of those things. When those things happen, it's a great opportunity to learn a lesson. How do you maintain stability even in the midst of misfortune? Because it happens. You can just shrug your shoulders and say, well, it happens. There's misfortune. There's misfortune. Or you can cry, oh, there's misfortune. And then it happens again, and then it happens again. And wait a minute, it's not fair. I'm a good person. Why is there misfortune? And all those kinds of being disconnected with who you really are. And what's behind who you really are is the supreme person and that relationship. So when you can make that connection, prasanatma nasochati nakangsati, and beyond that, samak sarveshu bhuteshu, means you see all living entities equally, even the one that threw the rock at you. And it hurts. And it hurts. But you samak sarveshu bhuteshu, somehow this is the instrument of my past misdeeds coming my way. I know that's a very elevated position, but you get there in dealing with miseries of life that come individually or large scale or somewhere in between. You have to have a place to take shelter. Why is this? That was the question. So here's our best solution, and this is the final slide. Right where we started, we were just chanting Hare Krishna. See that lady? She's going into that realm of uncertainty, just like the little boy with the backpack with the funny face on the back of the backpack. But she doesn't look like she's, disturbed. There's uncertainty in life. And as you go down the path of life that has its uncertainties, you think it's going to be like this, and sometimes it's like this. But often it's not like this, it's like that. And then what do? You adjust. But, in the bigger picture of life, make that connection with what's behind everything, the source of everything, and have a relationship with the source of everything, and you're protected. And when you're protected, you feel fearless. You're careful, not foolish, but fearless. You don't have to be ruled by fear. Oh, what's next? I don't know what's next. Some people live their life like that. But who knows what's next? You know what's next? Of course not. Well, you make a plan and you live according to the plan, and then you adjust the plan, but don't lose the connection with the source of everything, what's behind everything. That's what yoga is. And that's what gratitude is. And that's the ballast. You know what ballast is? When you have a ship, sometimes they have a hull, and at the bottom they put a lot of weight on the bottom. Because when the ship is moving through the sea, the ship tilts back and forth. They put a lot of weight down at the bottom. Ballast. So the ballast of life is gratitude. It's a good lesson to learn. Gratitude. And we've all received something. Certainly you received from your parents. But, where did your parents receive stuff from? From someone. And then ultimately what's behind is Krishna. So gratitude towards that which we have received from Krishna. And when ill fortune comes, it's a lesson that somewhere back there I've been ungrateful, or somewhere back there I've hurt another person. And I'm receiving some of the same to help me sit straight and be proper and be respectful to all other living beings. Even if the ones that are, a little hurtful, I may keep my distance from the hurtful ones. But, I don't lose respect because there's a spirit soul inside. Now, those are high lessons to learn, but cultured people and spiritually minded people learn those lessons. We get lots of opportunity every day to learn those lessons. Just like that teenage boy I mentioned. It was hard to see him sitting there crying because he's a nice young man. Nice young man. Crying and crying. Misfortune came his way. How to see beyond it. how to have ballast, how to have gratitude, even in the face of difficulty. So let's see if there's some discussion. Let's go back to the first slide. We have a portable microphone. And if anyone would like to speak something or discuss something, we'll hand you the microphone. Okay, we've got Radha with her hand up. We can count on Radha. Oh, before Radha, our hostess.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your class and like really telling us like I know beyond all the difficulties is something more important, and it is the connection that we need to have.
Very good.
And that spiritual enlightenment is the most important. I mean, that was the most important takeaway for me from the class. But one thing that I was still looking for was like, you did tell us like about individually, yes, like something bad happens to me, and then that is that I'll have to pause and think back about like, oh, this is connected to my misdeed, past misdeed. However, I'm thinking about like just this situation where every one of us, like none of us were spared, like all of us like together were like, you know, in this situation. So how does it work? Like, is it because that all of us had like bad karma and then we were just put in a situation like all of us are going through this?
Yes.
Is that how it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, but it's not that group of people are the only group of people that have bad karma. It's just at different times, in different ways, that our misdeeds are bearing fruit.
Oh, okay.
I was going to add another chart after this first slide, but I'll just describe it. You know, karma is sometimes instant and sometimes delayed, and karma sometimes spans over multiple lifetimes. And then, you know, here we are in the midst of a group of people. And so if it just happens that misdeeds all fructify in a larger scale all at one time.
Yep. Okay.
Now, that's when one is not connected nicely with Krishna or the source of everything. When misfortune comes to one who is nicely connected, like to say the Pandavas, again and again and again, misfortune. And then it wasn't karma. It was Krishna giving them some ordeal to show their greatness and to have them feel even more intensely committed and dedicated and attached to Krishna. And then Krishna came out of the box and saved the day. Oh, Krishna, you saved the day again. Like that.
Yep.
So for devotees, it's a different principle.
Yeah.
That's directly from Brahma Samhita, by the way. Just Tvindra Gopam Atavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhana Rupam Palabhajanam Atunoti Karmani Nirda Hintu Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam. Those are in Bhakti Bhajam stage of life. It's a different principle than the karma principle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Next.
I have a couple more. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah. One another thing that kind of like I'm sure like some of us here will be able to relate to during these times was that we were really away from our families. Like, you know, right now, even now in India, like people are really suffering. And,
yes. And dying left and right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I was just having this question, like when we are not able to, so you also brought this very nice point in the beginning of the class that, you know, you ask the kids, like, you get so many things from your parents, like, do you also like, you know, have that feeling of gratitude, or do you do as much as they do for you? So I sometimes feel the same connection, you know, going back, like with people in India, Like, I really feel that I'm unable to help them physically. I'm not able to serve them at all. But at the same time, here I am, like trying to connect to that higher thing that, I'm going to be able, I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to chant or meditate, whatever be the, like a person's, higher connection, they would like to meditate or, chant or pray, whatever that they would like to do. Would that serve as an antidote, Maharaj, for the whole situation?
Not just antidote, not just antidote. Just to put the way that you expressed what you expressed was within a limited boundary, but the greater boundary is whether proximate or remote. If as you become spiritually elevated, automatically, because of your affection, what to speak of family relation, others will also become spiritually benefited, whether you're proximate or remote. Now that's because it's the same super soul that's within their heart that's within your heart. As you become spiritually elevated, they're getting spiritual benefit commensurate with your elevation. You may not be there by circumstance or whatever to add physical assistance to their circumstance of life, but the physical well-being follows behind, like a shadow follows behind an object that casts a shadow. Physical or material well-being follows behind spiritual well-being. You can serve, like just say, souls that died from COVID, or souls that whatever, left from, it's been a whole rash of people leaving this world from COVID, especially because of interacting with a lot of families from India. The population of India is diminishing from the pandemic. And there's a lot of grief. A lot of grief. So what to do when the soul is already gone? You can't go back and redo what whatever you could have done better or something. By prayer, but also by spiritual elevation. Your benefit is going to that soul. That's the whole idea of Pinda. Mm-hmm. Benefit, it goes to the soul. Vishnu Prasad, benefit is going to the soul, the departed soul. It's a reality. Doesn't it provide the same comfort as being in physical proximity? But being in physical proximity without spiritual elevation isn't going to be the same benefit. Next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for a beautiful lesson about gratitude. We can tend to easily forget a simple word, thank you, and the depth of it. Maharaj, I lost my mom and my father-in-law last year. And, it's been a lot mentally and emotionally. So Maharaj, I do pray for my mother. I was very much attached to her, and, for my father-in-law also. But sometimes there is little fear that, and like where they might be, are they in a good place? There's always reassurance by devotees, but there is always little bit, in the heart, what if they are not really at that place? So how do I overcome that doubt? How do I, I don't know. Sometimes I really cry, and because I'm not sure, how do I pacify that emotion? It's been like over 6 months, but I'm not able to overcome that. If you could please kindly help me on that.
There's different levels of, why and what to do. One of the things that is important is to recognize from Bhagavad Gita, to recognize you're not the controller. Someone else is the controller. You're not the controller. There's nothing you can do because you're not the controller. But there is somebody that's the controller. And so you can make yourself more qualified. This is a path, not, a path of reality is if any influence I can have with he who is actually the controller can do something that's a benefit where in areas where I'm not the controller. You become dear to the controller, to the supreme, and you pray on behalf of those departed souls. It's he's the controller. And that influence can be passed on. And you can't do better than that. Or say it on the negative side, obsessing about what you can't have any control over is debilitating. Emotionally, physically, health, mental stability, mental acuity is debilitating. Obsessing over that which is outside of your control. Then there's two other things. Something that that's meaningful to them, in their lives, their values, and so forth. You try to invest time and energy, emotion in those things. Or in principle, at least. And you're doing that as a service for them, helping to fulfill their mission through your activities. And then you're connecting with them, and it doesn't take care if they're in an unfortunate situation that you don't know anything about, whether it's unfortunate or fantastic, you don't have any idea. I mean, you have some idea from Scripture due to past activities. Destination is determined. So, but you can't redo the past for them, because that's going to determine where they are in the circumstance. So invest in something that's connected to them, but a positive values that they upheld, and you live by them and try to manifest them in this world. What I just said is something that Prabhupada said about Gandhi. He was called upon to speak at a Gandhi memorial service because he was a high-ranking follower of Gandhi at some point in time. So he delivered a talk on that topic. And part of what I said is from that talk. And so let go of I am the karta hum. The Sanskrit? Karta aham. Let go. What can you do? I'm not the karta, then what can I do? I can make my connection with Krishna stronger and appeal to Krishna. Please give kindness to these souls. It's not like, there's too many souls, I'm too busy, don't bother me. He's unlimitedly kind.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And what similar to what from the previous question, as you become spiritually elevated, that spiritual elevation goes to those closely connected to you automatically without even having to offer a prayer. The spiritual well-being, and the opposite is also true. If one becomes degraded, others become negatively impacted by one becoming degraded. It doesn't like determine their misfortune, but it negatively impacts their good fortune. So become an elevated soul. And that's one of the best services you can do for those who are close to you, departed or present. This other is understanding how important that is to you. Invest in those who are presently available to you to do your maximum, be an instrument to be a maximum to help make sure their next destination is going to be a good one. That's something that's in front of you. You can work on that.
Thank you, Maya.
Okay, we got our hostess one more, and then we're going to go back to Radha.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was very nice. I mean, both the answers, like I really, really appreciated it because sometimes, as you also mentioned again in the class, we are stuck in like the rock. Who threw the rock? The rock hurts me. So I'm most of the time like I'm really complaining about what's happening to me, than to be able to easily cross over and think deeply about what could have been and why I should be grateful to. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to there's one more questions that I have probably related. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it because I had written it down. Sometimes we hear that if somebody is suffering, and like somebody is physically, going through something, or or family or something, or like a friend, we oftentimes hear like, hey, pray for that person. Like, can you have prayers for that person?
Yeah.
Now, but then we are also talking about making real connection with God. Like I usually oftentimes have that, like if somebody tells like, pray for me, pray for my, like mother, I'm like, yes, I will. But isn't our real purpose to actually develop love for God?
Yes.
And if that is the case, then how should our prayers be for that person, like who is suffering?
Let's go to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, sometimes some danger would go to Krishna. At least Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj and the elders who had that same kind of parental affection for Krishna as if he was their child, although he was Nanda and Yasoda's child. They would pray for his protection and safety. And they even moved from Gokul to Vrindavan because they thought it would be better for his protection and safety. So, the consciousness isn't make, Krishna, you're my order supplier, so please, here's my requisition slip, please fulfill it. That's not the idea. Or rather, knowing that Krishna is kind, that's like the bottom line. Somebody was asking me, what can I have absolute faith in? You can have absolute faith in Krishna's kind. So, Krishna's kind. And here's Krishna, here's one of your parts and parcel living entities, and they're undergoing some hardship. And because they're near to me and dear to me, I'm aware of that hardship. And I'm appealing to you because you're very kind. Please show some kindness to this person. Please help them in this troubling time. So it's service to one of Krishna's parts and parcels, knowing and calling upon his kindness. It's a service mood as opposed to a requisition, order supplier kind of mood. And then it's up to Krishna, whatever he wants to do.
Maharaj, I just wanted to know, because you spoke so nicely about gratitude, what would you tell, like, what would be, like you said, that gratitude goes beyond just thank you. There's one thing that you just say thank you, but then another thing
It's the
is
heart
that you
level.
actually feel gratitude. So what would be like some, I know practical things that we would be able to do, like where we actually either feel gratitude or show gratitude?
Service.
Service. Okay.
Service with love. Because there's mechanical and then there's service with love. And, then other things that come with when there's gratitude, then there's also forgiveness if there's some transgression. And that forgiveness goes to the soul level, not necessarily to the behavior level. Yeah, those are some examples. Let's go to Radha. She's very enthusiastic and patient at the same time. It's a nice combination. Utsahan Nishayat.
I really like this topic of gratitude, how you should always be grateful. But sometimes you're.
But, I like the topic, but.
Sometimes we're a little too timid to let it out, to tell people that I feel gratitude for you. I don't know.
You're
why.
shy? Are you telling me that you're shy?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. Well, that's a good quality. But, in the right time, in the right way, it may not be in the moment, but at the right time, in the right way, then you express. One of the lessons learned from the departure of great souls, because it happens, people leave this world, that, gee, I wish I had expressed my gratitude to that person, but it's too late now. Radha, you with me? So don't wait too long. You wait for the right time and circumstance, that's fine. And then it's not just, well, I did it once, but you can be a consistent or repeated expression of gratitude. And it's through loving service. It doesn't even have to be said. It can be just from the heart, loving service. And you smile. And it's everything is said through that, the loving service and the smile.
But sometimes we're too egoistic, or to say that too egoistic to even though we have gratitude, we're too egoistic to express it out.
That's right. You're saying the same. Well, you're a socially warm person. You'll learn the art of how to express your gratitude. That there's a little safety valve there. That's good.
I have a second question.
Yeah, sure.
So you're talking about there's an atonement to break a sacred vow. So what happens if just in a circumstance you're not able to finish your 16 rounds of chanting?
She's a smart girl. You make your best effort to not do that, and if it does happen by circumstance, you know what to do. You complete the remaining rounds the very next day, and then complete your 16 for that next day.
That's a lot of rounds.
That's a lot of rounds, yeah. But because you're committed, you find the time and the way. When you're committed to do something, you'll find the time and the way, right? When there's a will, there's a way. Okay.
What if you're not able to do it the next day?
Don't make it a habit. That's the answer. Go ahead, next. That's it? Anyone else? Over here.
Maharaj, what is the difference between material gratitude and spiritual gratitude? We have many people in the world who feel grateful, but what is the spiritual dimension of it?
Well, the spiritual dimension is remembering Krishna, and the material dimension is forgetting Krishna. Very simple. Now, what does that mean, remembering Krishna, forgetting Krishna? It's the difference between, night and day, or day and night. There's the reflection of the real thing, and there's the real thing. And the real thing is where the Krishna connection is vivid and clear. And one's mindfulness stays with Krishna naturally so. That's the spiritual dimension of gratitude. I mean, look at how Prabhupada was expressing himself. He's speaking to his students or disciples, and he's speaking about his spiritual master, but his gratitude towards his spiritual master has become so powerful, he can't even continue to speak. It's with him all the time. He's not always crying, but it's with him all the time. That's spiritual. It's, the same as the Sanatan Dharma message that we heard. Gratitude, that's the spiritual. It's Sanatan Dharma. It's of the soul. It doesn't leave you. It's not cosmetic, come and go. Put it on, take it off. It's with you all the time. Okay. Do we have anything online? No questions online. Anything else in the room? Going once. Going twice. Okay. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki Jai.